In film, one of the key foundations of a director's craft in influential storytelling is blocking. Specifically, good blocking allows the character to motivate the camera movement and ensures that the audience is looking where you want them to look and absorbing the information important for understanding the scene. I'm going to be taking a look at this practice in action using the film Marriage Story, which was released in 2019 and directed by Noah Baumbach. The film focuses on a married couple that are going through a difficult divorce. The couple consists of our two main characters, Nicole, played by Scarlett Johansson, and Charlie, played by Adam Driver. We'll be analyzing 3 examples from the film to illustrate and explain how Noah Baumbach visually separates characters through the use of blocking, and in every location characters are placed in a way that can put them at odds with each other and divide the frame into separate portions for each character to inhabit. The first scene that we'll be examining is when Charlie is served with divorce papers. The scene involves 4 characters, and in order of appearance are Cassie, Sandra, Nicole, and Charlie. The scene takes place in Nicole's kitchen and is framed so there are 2 entrances that can be seen. This allows for Cassie and Sandra to enter and exit through 2 separate doorways on opposite sides. By doing this, the kitchen never feels overcrowded with characters, and this allows the viewer's focus to be primarily on Nicole and Charlie. Cassie and Sandra only re-enter the kitchen when they have something important to do that progresses the scene. They are not left loafing in the background of the kitchen because that would distract the audience, not like a certain scene from a film that we covered in class. The shots rotate through the cast of Cassie, Sandra, and Nicole in that order 3 consecutive times. Cassie and Sandra share the same sentiment of being apprehensive about serving these divorce papers and think that Nicole should reconsider her decision. The pattern that was transpiring is broken by Nicole, and this represents her conflicting opinions and thus breaks the rhythm of the shot pattern. Then Cassie and Sandra are framed together in contrast to Nicole, who is framed in her own shot. This visually assists with showing the conflict between them surrounding whether Nicole should divorce Charlie. When Charlie arrives and enters the kitchen, the camera movements start being dictated by his movements around the kitchen. He begins this scene at a high point, blissfully unaware of the divorce papers that Nicole plans to serve him with, and when he discovers these papers, the scene immediately comes to a halt and the tone changes to be more serious. Then we get to see Nicole gain equal control of the scene with Charlie. The next scene focuses on Charlie receiving a phone call from Nicole's lawyer, Nora. She is trying to inform Charlie that they haven't received a response to their filings, and if he doesn't respond, then they will arrange for a default judgment which would allow them to obtain full custody of their son Henry. As Charlie is receiving the bad news, he continues to descend down the stairs. The scene starts with his movement motivating the camera because he hasn't lost control of the scene at this point, but once he begins his descent, the camera stays above him, illustrating how his movement no longer motivates the camera's movement and that this news is pushing him to rock bottom. At the conclusion of the phone call, Charlie has made his way out into the streets of New York and is no longer the main focus in the frame and has become just another person in the crowd. The final scene that we'll be analyzing is a heated argument between Charlie and Nicole. Whenever the couple are having an argument, Noah Baumbach finds a way to visually divide the frame. As Charlie and Nicole are talking, he offers her a drink and proceeds to enter into the kitchen as she is talking to him. The kitchen is set up with a wall blocking it from the view of the living room. Nicole is placed in the living room while Charlie is in the kitchen. Visually, this further illustrates the growing divide between the characters. Even when they're trying to have a conversation, there's always a barrier between them, and even as they are in the same space, it is the idea of them being together while still being separated from each other. Charlie does not want to face the reality of their situation, while Nicole just wants to move on in her life and start a new one. The blocking in a sense parallels the relationship between both characters, with Charlie always moving away and deflecting while Nicole is following him and trying to get him to open up, similar to coaxing a scared animal out of hiding. The drink that Charlie gives to Nicole is a juice box, and when their argument intensifies, Nicole places it on the ground, but it can still be seen in the final shot of the scene. The juice box is meant to represent their son Henry, who may not be physically present in this scene, but is still powerless in this situation, and is also a reminder to the audience of what both characters are fighting for. As Charlie and Nicole are hurling insults at each other, the camera moves in closer to their faces. Their raw energy during the argument intensifies, and their body movement and rhythm becomes kinetic in a sense. Charlie and Nicole begin to lean into the frame while delivering their insults. This movement further enhances the emotional weight and power of the scene. Alright, so now you have seen how good blocking can enhance storytelling in film. Sometimes you don't even require dialogue to understand the emotion or objective of a scene. Thanks for listening, and I hope you all have a great day.